the way you talk to yourself matters. And if you're telling yourself you're a piece of garbage every single day, then you're going to make choices that reflect that because that's how you feel about yourself. So I know you've struggled with this yourself in recent years. What have been some of your best practices to know what you're saying to yourself and how it's impacting you, and then breaking those negative thought loops to be able to change it and start talking to yourself in a more compassionate way?
So let's break this down for everybody. Because what you just said is how you talk to yourself matters. And that is so true, right? And so there are a couple elements to getting control over your negative self-talk, breaking it apart, and replacing it with a new way of speaking to yourself. And so the first step is self-awareness, because I am willing to bet my mortgage on the fact that you have no idea just how negative and relentless and horrible your self-talk is. You're so used to it, you've tuned it out. So the first step in changing from trashing yourself and bashing yourself to learning how to have your default become positive is to become aware of just how nasty, disgusting, and fucking awful your default way of talking to yourself is. And that's the hardest part. So that's the bad news. Here's the good news. You can change this. Like, yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, but through repetition, in less than 66 days, you can change how you feel about everything by changing how you speak to yourself. And, that's not just some dumb platitude that Doug and I have pulled out of thin air. When researchers study every single skill and every single behavior change that you could take on in the new year or at any moment in your life, the number one behavior change or skill that has the biggest impact on your happiness and your fulfillment is being kinder to yourself. And so if you could become aware of how often you trash yourself, and then we're going to teach you to interrupt it, and then we're going to teach you to replace it with something that is kind, you will see your whole life change. Your whole life change.
Right. Absolutely. And I think you brought up a really good thing in that you have to become aware of it, and you have to realize that sometimes, like, the way you talk to yourself, like, believe it or not, it does impact us, and whether we want to admit it or not. I think sometimes people, when they're feeling so down about themselves, they have a hard time admitting that something in their life is going wrong, because they're already feeling so low that the idea of even having something bring them even down lower, like, scares the hell out of them, right?
Yeah, so let's break this apart. Let's role play here. Okay? So let's say you are what was the sport that you played as a kid?
I tried to play all sports. I wasn't very good, but I would say the sport that I was the most consistent with was basketball.
Okay. So little Doug is on the basketball court, and there's a foul, and Doug is the person that is selected to shoot the free throw. And little Doug steps up to the free throw line. And then all of a sudden they call a timeout. And you come running back to the huddle. What would be the most empowering and encouraging and motivating thing that your coach or teammates could do or say in order to help you perform and feel your best when you step onto that line?
Like, I believe in you and you're going to make it.
I believe in you and you're going to make it. You got this. And then they send you back into that game with a high five, right? How would that make you feel, little 9-year-old Doug?
I'd feel pretty confident.
Right. Now, how would little 9-year-old Doug feel if, when you came back to that huddle and you're about to go do this free throw, that your teammates are like, "Oh, him? He's a piece of shit. He screws everything up. Are you kidding me? What? What? Oh my God. Well, he shouldn't be the one that does." How would that make little Doug feel?
It would probably, obviously make me feel like I'm not going to make the shot. So why even bother?
Correct. What you say to yourself matters.
Right.
And we understand that from a common sense perspective. But somewhere along the line, we have all stopped saying, you're going to make it. You got this. And we've started saying, you're a piece of shit. You're not good enough. Why even bother? And when you send yourself into a conversation, into a presentation, into even typing up an email, when you start your day by saying, I look terrible, I screwed up again yesterday, I hate my life, that's not going to motivate you to change it. And so your sense of feeling like the effort is worth it begins and ends with how encouraging, supportive, and kind you are to yourself. And, we can also take this little role play exercise and go, well, let's say you miss the shot and you come back to the sideline again. What could your coach say, or what would you want your coach to say to help you get your head back in the game and to brush off the mistake that you just made?
Like, you did your best, Doug. You'll get them next time. Like, get back in there. And I have a feeling you're going to be a positive contribution to the team.
Yeah, that's right. Shake it off. You did
Shake
your
it off.
best. You're going to do it next time. This is how you win some, you lose some. Let's go. Now I need you to win some, right? I believe in you.
I think one of the role plays that we could maybe go into that I think is pretty common with people is that they acknowledge that they maybe have to start talking to themselves better, but whatever they start to say that's positive, there's this cognitive dissonance because they just don't believe it. So
Right.
how do you get somebody who for the last 10 to 15 years has just been completely destroying themselves self-talk wise, begin to build some consistency with that. So now that becomes a new habit that they're talking to themselves in a more positive way and they actually believe it instead of just saying it.
This is a phenomenal and really smart question. If you have been trashing yourself for 10 years, you do have a cognitive dissonance. You don't even hear it anymore
Right.
because that negative, you're a piece of shit, you're not good enough, you screw everything up, first began as something you said. Then it became a belief. Your brain started to align with the belief and it starts to become your identity. I always screw things up. And I want you to hear me loud and clear. If you are on social media and you ever go to the Discover page on Instagram or on TikTok or on any platform, that social media platform has put together a mosaic of content that aligns with everything that you consume in your feed. That social media platform on the Discover page has assembled a world on social media that looks just like the stuff you're always looking at. Your brain works exactly the same way. One of the reasons why it is so important for you to identify how often you are trashing yourself or being pessimistic or you are being negative in your attitude and unkind to yourself is because as long as you think and speak that shit, the Discover page of your mind presents a world that matches to that negative dialogue. So that's why this is critical. The second thing that you need to do, because you're unconscious to it, right, is there are two things that are going to work because just trying to speak kindly often doesn't work because you have so trained your mind that you think you're not good enough, that saying, I'm good enough doesn't work because your brain literally looks at you and like, who are you talking to? Like, because I can't be you. So there's two things that will help you based on the research. The first one is journaling exercises, because there is something that happens when you create a new habit where every single morning before you look at that social media, you open up a blank page. And the way that I journal is very simple. I always start by writing down 5 things that I want. And I just let them flow through me. What are 5 things that I really want? And it might be something small. It might be that, I want a really cool new pair of sneakers. It might be something big. I really want to feel happy. It might be something that is a feeling. Like, this pandemic has kicked the shit out of everybody. I am not immune from the feeling of burnout or the feeling of languishing, the feeling of disconnection even from self that we can all feel when you're isolated for this long and you're remote for this long and you're stressed out for this long. And so allowing yourself to write down 5 things that you want. I want to feel like myself again. It allows the things that you desire to flow through the self-doubt and through the negativity and through all the crap that buries it and pushes it down, and it allows it to come to the surface. And the writing it down is important because your mind is paying attention. That discover page that your mind creates pays attention to what you say is important. And if you begin a new habit of just starting your day with a blank piece of paper and writing down 5 things that you want every day. It can be the same things every day. It can be different things every day. You just allow yourself to do this. You will start to build the skill of being connected to what you desire. You will start to develop a skill of tuning out the self-doubt and tuning into what you want. And this is really important because your brain is paying attention, and it doesn't require you to talk to yourself. It just write it on a piece of paper. The next thing that you're going to do, step 2, is write down why you want these things. Because if you have a negative dialogue, Doug, you have for decades talked yourself out of the things that you want. You have filled your heart and your soul and your mind with all the reasons why it's never going to happen. And so by starting every day with a new habit, write down 5 things that you want and then write down why you want these things. You are developing a skill of listening to what you want instead of listening to the self-doubt. That's step 1. That's one thing that you can do to fight decades of negative self-talk. The second thing that you can do is every morning after you brush your teeth, add a high 5 in the mirror to your reflection to your morning routine. That will have a shockingly powerful impact on your negative self-talk. And the reason why it does is because your brain watches you do it, and you only give a high 5 to somebody that you believe in, that you're rooting for, that you're kind to, and that you want to see win. And what we've found based on researching this simple habit, adding a high 5 to the mirror every single morning, you don't say a word. As stupid as it sounds, just high 5 the mirror. What we have found after researching this for 18 months and having 153,000 people from 91 countries do this for 5 days is that it has a profound effect on how you speak to and how you see yourself, because it is an action that demonstrates to your brain that you care about yourself and you support yourself. And so those are 2 physical things that you can do to start to shut down and fight back against the critic that is programmed into your head.
I think it's amazing that you've kind of put together this high 5 habit, but also you invite people to do deeper work as well. It's not as simple as just saying, "Hey, give yourself a high 5 and then your life's going to be fixed." It's like, no, you encourage people to do other things. You're talking about developing some things called like self-awareness, where you're actually becoming aware of like what it is that's bothering you, what it is that you want. And then also like writing down like why, I think, is so important, because I'm a trainer, so I see this a lot in the fitness space where people don't put an emotional connection to their fitness goals. They say, "Oh, I just want to lose weight." And it's like, that's not what they want. People want to be able to look at themselves in the mirror and be proud of their health. That's the emotional connection, right? People want to be able to carry the groceries up and down their steps when they get older. They want to be able to walk their daughter down the aisle. They want to be able to play with their kids when they get older. Like those are the real reasons. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Can I share something? Because
Yeah.
I think that's a wildly important point, Doug, and it is completely missed by most of us. And I'm going to tell two stories. So, I every single morning, as part of my morning routine, I write down 5 things that I want in my journal, and then I write down why. And what's been really interesting about adding this practice to my morning routine is that I didn't realize, because of the cognitive dissonance, I'm just so used to feeling like I don't deserve to be happy, or that something's wrong, or focusing on what's wrong, or beating myself up, that I was completely unaware of how much I was silently suffering in my life. It just was the autopilot mode I was on, to focus on what wasn't working, to push myself relentlessly, to point out what I was doing wrong. That it wasn't until I started writing down 5 things that I wanted and the why I wanted these things, it was really important. Because at the bottom of every why that you come up with is the singular thing that every human being wants. And that is, I just want to feel like I'm seen, that I'm happy, that I deserve to have these things just because I want them, that I am enough of a person for simply being alive, that it's okay for me to just want to feel better and happier. And, when you talk about, for example, you just mentioned this example that you're a trainer and you have people come into the gym, and just saying, I want to get in better shape is not enough. If you want to tap into the internal desire to change, go deep and get to the heart of the embarrassing thing that you don't want to say. Because saying, I need to lower my cholesterol, that's not going to get you to have the force inside you to push yourself out of bed on a cold morning when it's 7 degrees, like it was in Vermont this morning, and get out of bed and go exercise. But if you say, I haven't had my shirt off in public in 15 years, and I am tired of feeling like the most out of shape person. I am tired of my own behavior being a form of rejection. And I want to get in shape because I deserve to be proud of myself. And I'm sick of feeling like shit. And I want a 6-pack because I want to take my shirt off and I want to feel great about my body and I want to experience an amazing orgasm. That will motivate you.
You're so right. And a lot of times people will come to me and I'll ask them like 3 or 4 whys. Like, so if somebody says, I'll walk you through this, somebody says, I want to lose weight. Well, why? Well, because I'm just not fitting right in my clothes. And I'll say, well, why does that bother you so much? And it's like, well, it's like my belt's starting to get a little tight and I feel uncomfortable when I'm going out. And I'm like, well, why does that bother you so much? And then normally they'll get like an emotional response. They'll be like, like I'll come home and just bawl my eyes out because all of my friends go to the gym, they work out, they're in shape, and I just can't seem to do it. And boom, there you go. And if I were to ask another why, I mean, what I normally would get is like, this is it. They're like, I'm just so tired of feeling unworthy. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm not enough. I'm so tired of being unhealthy, even though I should be doing it to take care of my family. And that's where you can really start to attach emotion to changing, because when you don't want to go to the gym, it's not like, I'm not going to the gym, I only want to lose weight. It's like, no, I better go to the gym because of what I told my trainer I wanted to do, or what I told myself I wanted to do. I want to do this for my family. I want to do this for my self-esteem. I want to do this for me because I deserve it. Game changes, right?
Yeah. You're not going to feel motivated or inspired to do the work if you're bashing yourself and saying, I need to lose weight, I'm a piece of shit.
Right.
But if you say, no, I deserve to be happy, and I know this is going to make a difference, you are building the skill of self-empowerment. You see, it's a skill to push yourself through the resistance that you're going to feel when you have to create a new habit. It's a skill to tune out the self-doubt and to push yourself and do it anyway. It is a skill to listen to a more positive voice in your head and tune out the negative one that you've been listening to for 20 years. And so instead of thinking in terms of habits and all these kind of patterns of behavior, I want you to think about the fact that what habits create in your life is they create skills. And self-awareness is a skill. Pushing yourself to take action when you're afraid or not feeling like it, that's a skill. Being kind to yourself, that's a skill. And when you have something as a skill in your life, you can use that skill to help you in every area of your life.
I have followed the personal development world for a really long time, and you have just inspired me to continue on my path of entrepreneurship that has taken away my doubt, the fear, the anxiety, the negative self-talk, all of those things. So I follow a lot of the personal development people, and yours has stuck the most with me. Has actually resonated and it actually has worked.
Why do you think that is?
Because, that's a great question.
Hold my hands because I can see your shape.
I am. I think you're just real about it. There's no sugarcoating it. You connect with it. It's not where you're telling us to not say do things, but the other personal development people tell you to dream big and you think these things, but it's the taking that blockage away. Okay, I want to dream to go have a house in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I'm okay, well, I'm still blocking that in my way. So I have to think about reframing my mind and all those things and how to do it.
Yeah.
And you have taught me how to do it. So I have 6 mantras that I say every morning that you have taught me.
What are they?
Well,
I need them.
Well, they're yours.
What are my 6 mantras that move the most for you?
So every single day, the first I say is, the world needs my story.
Yes.
I say my next chapter is just beginning.
Yes.
I say I'm growing every day.
Yes.
I say every day I'm getting stronger.
Yes.
I say what's meant for me is trying to find me.
Yes.
Which is my absolute favorite one because I had a hard time comparing myself to other people in my industry and been oh gosh, the right people aren't going to come.
What is your industry?
So I'm a professional home organizer.
Fabulous.
And so I'm oh, everyone else is, I'm not getting the clients I want or this and that, but that one was huge.
You traveled here for this event.
Yes.
I've heard about you. Yes. I heard that you traveled here out of state to come.
I came from Charlotte.
Yes, from Charlotte to Fargo.
Yes. Well, I'm originally from Fargo.
Okay.
So this is my
But
home.
still, you traveled, so I'm going to give you credit for that. You get a high five for traveling that far.
Yes, the high five. So that, and then I'm committed to my financial freedom. And then another one that I did from meditation is abundance flows to me and abundance flows through me.
Yes.
So those are what you have taught me, and they've helped me, and I say them every day, and it has helped my mindset more than I can tenfold ever thank you for.
And you're welcome. Thank you for trying it. Because I often think that the reason why the things that I'm talking about work is because they're so damn simple.
They are.
And sometimes they sound so stupid, especially when the problems are big or the goals are big.
Yes.
But when it's simple, you can remember it. Mm-hmm. And in a moment of doubt or fear, you can apply it.
100%.
And when you use one of those 6 reframes, it removes the thinking that's keeping you from taking the actions.
100%.
Because the simple secret is this. If you know what you want, what you have to do is bring yourself back to the present moment and just align your thoughts and action with the thing that you want. So imagine the person in Hawaii, imagine the organizing business, and you've got your millions of followers and your HGTV show, or maybe you're on the Magnolia Network. I don't know, maybe that's your dream, or maybe you're doing a YouTube show, right? So you have a dream and you give yourself permission to have the dream. And then you say, okay, well, here I am today on a Tuesday and I'm standing in my current life. How do I think like the person who has what I want? And what's the one action I could take today that aligns with turning my life toward the thing that's meant for me? And so I'm so proud of you because you are allowing yourself to hear your heart's desire and you are pushing yourself to walk toward it every single day. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
So
awesome. What's blocking you currently?
Well, see.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, what is it?
A whole list of questions. So like, what's blocking me currently, like with the realm and my space in that world. So like, everyone knows the names of like the Home Edit, Marie Kondo. And I love them. I respect them.
Right.
And I'm like, how do I move my mind frame of my limitations thinking they have made it so big and so far. Like, I want to get there, but like, I don't even know how to take that away to get my mindset around thinking I can get to that level.
Right.
Like, how do I get there without feeling like a copycat, but also like knowing that it's possible because they're doing it.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm stuck right there.
Got it. So you're stuck in comparison.
100%.
And the people that are ahead of you on the path that you're walking down are making you invalidate yourself.
Totally.
Great. No, not great. Not great. Not great. But this is normal.
Yeah.
Okay, it's normal.
Okay.
It's normal. So one of the reasons why our brain sees everybody that's ahead of us as competition is it's trying to protect you from taking any kind of risks.
Yes.
Normal for your brain to do this. This is where reframes are critical. I also want to tell you, I struggle with the same thing. I am launching a brand new podcast show in October. All I see around me are the 2 million shows out there, the bigger ones, the this, the that, the other thing. And if I look at them as being ahead of me, I immediately go, why am I even doing this?
100%.
Yes. Okay, so here's how you're going to reframe this.
Okay.
You have to say, they are a light on the path.
Okay.
They're a light on the path I'm walking down.
Yep.
They are showing me it's possible. That's number one.
Yes.
Number
yes.
two, there is no copying because there are no original ideas. Seriously.
Right.
I want you to be inspired. You're not copying. You're inspired by what they're doing.
Right.
Okay? And when you look at a pantry, if you're inspired by what Marie Kondo does or the Home Edit does, you are going to look at the pantry and take that inspiration and do it your way.
Right.
So do not invalidate the fact that your dreams and these people that are showing up are actually trying to get you to feel inspired again.
Okay.
Your doubt and your fear is blocking the inspiration. By calling it I'm copying them, you're demeaning the fact that your dreams are getting stirred up.
Right.
Your inspiration is going.
Right.
So you got to keep walking toward that. Okay, that's number two.
Okay.
Number three, you may never get there. You may be way bigger. You might.
That's true. Okay.
You might.
Okay.
You might.
Yeah.
And you also are so lucky because you can study everything that they did.
True.
And then you can take the step that they took and you can go, oh, this feels right for me.
Right.
Or you can take the step they took and go, ew, I wouldn't do it that way.
Sure.
I'm going to do it this way.
Okay.
And so literally use their path to test out ways to try this.
Okay.
Because the thing is, you're going to build your business your way.
Right.
It is a gift
Right.
that other people, you know what I'm doing right now? 4 months ahead of launching my own podcast, I am stalking every podcast person. I am listening to their opening episodes. I am studying what they do.
Okay.
I am practicing and I'm trying to figure out what feels right for me by following what other people have done.
Okay.
It's impossible for you to be somebody else.
Right. Absolutely.
But in trying and practicing and being inspired by other people, you are going to build the skills and the muscle to find the courage to put your own spin on it. You got it?
I got it.
Okay, good.
I'm going to do it.
And now here's the other thing. It's not a freaking race.
Okay.
Please play the long game.
Okay.
Please do this because you love organizing.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me why you love organizing.
Well, a lot of reasons. One, I just love being able to help people. I can see it like there, but I also know from ADHD standpoint, like my history with school was so hard. And like that's, I wouldn't say like my scarring moment, but I had to be organized. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Because I would have failed out of school.
Yeah.
And I wanted to achieve. So it's like, it has got me to where I am today because of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it. I see people so frustrated, and I always thought everyone knew how to do it.
So this is perfect. That's the long game.
Okay.
You're not addicted to organizing a pantry. You're addicted to that moment where somebody has a breakthrough in what life could be like if they're organized.
Yes. Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Stay attached to that. Play the long game. It won't ever matter how much money you make or how many followers you have or what product deals you make.
Yes.
Because you'll stay attached to the heart and soul of why you're doing this.
Okay.
Got it?
I got it.
Good. Awesome. Go get them. Go get them. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I have to tell you something. I've been in the self-help world for a long time. I gotta say, your book triggered me in the beginning, and it gave me all of the feels and ways that I was not expecting. Do you mind if I reveal to you what I sort of discovered from this process?
Yes. So are you saying that you started to read The High Five Habit and you got triggered?
Oh, Mel, the title alone gave me all of the feels. So
why?
So here's the thing. I'm not a high fiver. And not only am I not a high fiver, but as an adult, I usually decline if somebody wants to high five. I know.
Are you a germaphobe?
No, it goes so much deeper than this. So I grew up in a very athletic community. And as a gay 6'6" overweight kid, my memory of high fives is hearing things like, Dougal doesn't get a high five because he didn't do anything, and sort of being left out. So when I started reading the book, at first I thought, why do I have such a challenge with high fives? Like even on the Peloton, if people high five you, not a sponsor, but they could be if they want to. If people high five you, I will ignore it. So I started the book and I really wanted to like merge into it. And so what came up for me in the beginning is sort of this past memory of I don't belong here. I'm not a part of the team. I'm not allowed to do this. And I'm really enjoying the book. I was going to race through it before the interview, but I want to sort of savor it because it's been bringing up a lot for me. And so in the moment where I'm in the morning, and I even resisted doing it before coffee, I had a lot of resistance, Mel. You were triggering me. And I got still and I took the challenge. And the first thing that I noticed is you cannot not smile. I immediately smile, and it immediately makes me feel good. And by day 3 or day 4, I'm going to get emotional. By day 3 or day 4, what came up for me was I'm in this game. And it may not be a lacrosse game, and I'm not going to cry. And it may not be like a soccer game, but I'm a 44-year-old man now. Like I'm in this game and we can celebrate ourselves. Who knew?
Who knew? It's been a wildly confronting process to not only discover this thing called the high five habit, but to unpack all of the science and research that explains A, why we resist it, B, why it's hard not to smile or cry or laugh when you do it, and C, why it has such a profound impact on people. And you know what I'll say is, number one, you're the first person that I've talked to that has brought up a negative memory around high fives. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to talk to you about it. And given that you have this negative association with a high five based on your lived experience, and you still push through the resistance, and you also were able to feel the impact of it, proves even further to me why this is such a profound habit. And the reason why is because it works from the inside out.
Yes.
And even though those bastards teased you and bullied you and left you out of receiving a high five, and so your lived experience and association when you thought about it was negative, the fact is that your brain's neural association and your nervous system's programmed association with a high five was still profoundly positive.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
And I have to own my own what I realize as I'm sort of going through this process is I think I've perhaps even designed situations where I've either mentally left myself out or designed it so that I feel left out. Because I thought, now, why would I reject a high five? Because I celebrate it when I see other people doing it. But I still think there's that shadow side, inner child thing of, it feels like someone's handing me a lacrosse stick at first. And I don't play lacrosse, but now it's like, no, I can, and I consider myself someone that wants to uplift other people and give energy to other people. And obviously it goes deeper into just the high five in the morning. It's about self-care and congratulating yourself. And that's a struggle for me. So it was really interesting to give myself permission to do it.
It goes even deeper because it's actually about self-worth.
Yeah.
And about self-love. And, you know, I want to unpack something that you just talked about, which is, as you've been reflecting on the fact that it's not really just about, you know, this represents what people who play lacrosse do. This actually represents something deeper because it represents acceptance. It represents support. It represents celebration. And it doesn't surprise me, given the amount of bullying and badgering and crap that you have had to take as a 6'6", overweight kid who is also gay, proudly gay, but you grew up in a time where it was not celebrated by your peers and not something that was the norm.
Right.
And so, I want to acknowledge that when you are somebody whose very existence is bullied and who feels like he doesn't belong because the laws say that you don't, or because the kids treat you differently, you develop protection mechanisms.
Yes.
And one of the biggest ones is to just pull yourself out and to be in the corner and to hide who you are because it's safer.
Yeah.
That way you don't get bullied. That way you don't get badgered. And so, first of all, give yourself you get a gold star for the fact that you're recognizing it. Yep. Secondly, the high five in that lane, when you're somebody who is coming into and back to yourself, right? And when you're somebody who now realizes that you deserve to be fully seen for who you are. When you start to high five yourself, what happens is it's not like a fuck yeah, like a oh, like, bro. That's not what the high five habit is, actually.
Right.
It's actually grounded in compassion and empathy and support of self. And so the reason why you smiled when you did it is because your brain doesn't know the difference between watching somebody else high five someone else or receiving a high five or giving a high five to someone else and you high fiving yourself.
Yeah.
To your brain, the physical action becomes the trigger that unlocks all of this lifetime neural association with the high five. Now, you cognitively were like, screw the high five. That's for dickhead lacrosse players and those.
Right. Wouldn't even give myself a chance at first.
Get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your brain still recognizes this as that gesture that people that like each other do to one another. So when you physically raise your hand to high five yourself, you can't think anything negative because your brain grabs all the programming that's already in your subconscious and then starts to marry it with your own reflection. So I'm not surprised that you're starting to have breakthroughs around, wow, I've really taken myself out in certain areas of my life. Wow, I'm so hard on myself. Wow, why is it so hard to stand in front of the mirror and actually raise my hand in celebration? And, we can unpack that too.
And I went into a hot flash. I went into it kicking and screaming because, I also am a big believer in the way you start your day, start your energy. And one of the things you say is even before your cup of coffee, which triggered me, Mel. This triggered me.
Why did it trigger you?
Well, coffee fuels my soul. But what I discovered was that even the even the act of pouring a cup of coffee is taking me away from myself first. I'm going to the kitchen, the dog is there. I'm, having a conversation with my husband. So making it a priority to go to the bathroom first, to just be with myself and sleep gunk and all the stuff in my eyes and all of that before the coffee, before any stimulant of noise or any energy outside of my own being. I resisted it. We're talking about
what? Let me tell you why. Let me tell you
Tell
why.
me. Dissect me.
So I love that you just said that you're a huge proponent of the morning, and morning routines and setting yourself up for success and your energy in the morning. And you are right. All the research shows that your mood in the morning and your intention in the morning actually impacts productivity and focus and fulfillment all day long. So you're absolutely right. And I'm so happy you said this, because there's not a single person on the planet that I know of that is talking about the fact that everybody's morning routine contains a disgusting, destructive habit. And nobody has kicked the door wide open until right now.
What is it?
And let me tell you what the habit is. Before you read my book, when you walked into the bathroom and you were brushing your teeth, did you even look at yourself in the mirror?
I did, but not kindly.
Okay, I'm glad that you're being honest.
Yeah.
When you looked in the mirror, what did you think, or what did you focus on?
I struggle with body dysmorphic disorder. My audience knows this. I write about it and speak about it openly. So there is a moment of distortion, which I could relate to you talking about this in the book too, where first I'm criticizing my body. And not only am I criticizing my body, but I'm thinking of what's going to make me feel good. Coffee gives me my coffee dance, is what I call it. I get excited. I get motivated. I certainly meditate, but the visual, meditating is closing my eyes. I'm not looking at myself. The visual of looking at myself, if I'm going to be completely honest, was more triggering than I expected it to be.
Okay. Well, I wanna give you a sense that you're not alone in this. So when I discovered the high five habit during a very low moment in my life in April of 2020, and it just was something I did on a low morning, like you, where I'm standing in front of the mirror and I'm focused on everything I hate about the way that I look. And I'm beating myself up and I'm thinking about my day and I'm already criticizing the fact that I'm running late and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And I just raise my hand and give the woman in the mirror that I see a high five, because she looks like she needed it. She looks like life had beaten her down. She looked overwhelmed and exhausted. And I honestly just didn't have any words to say. And I probably wouldn't have believed him anyway, because in April of 2020, my whole life was turned upside down. And so I didn't feel energized. I didn't feel empowered. I felt defeated. I felt lost. I felt overwhelmed. And, I think we can all relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all began. And as it started to work, and I noticed, like you're noticing, whoa, I feel more energized. Whoa, like I'm not criticizing myself. Wow, something weird is happening. I then post a photo online, and within an hour, more than 100 people around the world had posted a photo of them high-fiving themselves in the mirror. And I hadn't even put instructions.
Right. They're just mimicking what you did.
Mimicking.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, there's something here. So I spent the last year researching this.
Yeah. I love when you nerd out. Tell us the nerdy part of why it works. I love this stuff.
Well, let me first tell you that you're not alone in the mirror. So the disgusting habit that every single human being, like, I don't care who you are, where you live, what your education is, how much money you have, everybody has this habit. It is a habit of self-rejection. 50% of people cannot even look at themselves in the mirror. That's men and women. 50%, because they are disgusted by what they see, or they are sad about where they're at. 50% based on our research. That's number one. Now, we know that 91% of women do not like how they look. And so if you can look at yourself in the mirror, you're in the minority. And if you do look at yourself in the mirror, what we know based on research is almost everybody focuses on what they don't like.
Hmm.
And so, if you can't even look at yourself, that is rejection of self, and
Right.
it's a habit. And if you look in the mirror and you see all the things that you hate or need to fix, that is also a habit of self rejection. And everybody has it, and nobody's talking about it. And what the high five habit actually does at its deepest level is it teaches you using simple science to break the habit of self rejection and
Hmm.
to replace it with a habit of self acceptance, self validation. And when you repeat this over time, a habit of self love and self worth. And so here's why this feels weird. The reason why high fiving yourself in the mirror feels weird is that you are breaking that habit of self rejection. And whenever you are practicing any new habit, it always feels weird.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's working.
Right.
If I lost my right hand today in a car accident and I had to write with my left hand, it would feel weird.
Right.
And it feels weird, not necessarily because it's new. It feels weird because the habit is now requiring me to plow new connections in my brain that aren't there right now.
Hmm.
If your brain is currently wired to reject yourself, to go, ugh, when you see yourself in the mirror, it's going to feel weird to look at yourself for a second and then practice an action that says acceptance, belief, and love.
Hmm.
That's why it feels weird. And so the reason why you resist it too is because there's this other habit that we have of judgment.
Yeah.
And in the bathroom every morning, I want you to consider you're actually not standing before your reflection. I want you to consider that you are in the bathroom with another person.
Hmm.
That's a human being in the mirror.
Hmm.
And that human being is trying very hard. And they are beaten down by your constant criticism and your hatred
Hmm.
and your critiquing
Hmm.
and you're focusing on what's going wrong.
Hmm.
And they need you to wake up and they need you to start to see them and to cheer for them and to support them. They need that from you.
This
And
is where the words that were floating through my mind are is you are in this game. And if I may say, as it was building, not only am I in this game, but I'm sort of killing it. Like, not gonna lie, like I love my life. Things are going well. And why would I continue these old tapes? And what's interesting to me as a spiritual teacher, I'm also a teacher as well,
I
is that
know.
I love when you talk about your struggle because I have a real issue with toxic positivity. And a lot of times in spiritual communities, I might say to colleagues or friends, I've been a little anxious lately. And I feel like everyone like repels back and it's like, oh no, we can't have a negative thought right now. And I'm a human being. Yes, I connect with people. Yes, I love to get motivated, but it's been a hard year and a half. There's been a lot of energy on the planet. And I think sometimes when I'm in the stillness of my own being, those quiet moments early in the morning, looking in the mirror, I save some of that negativity and maybe it festers a little bit versus sort of talking about it through the day. And so I love when you talk about your struggle, you're very, very honest about your relationship with that anxiety and stuff like that. And it's really refreshing and so necessary right now.
Well, I actually think the reason why you're negative is because it's just a habit.
Yeah.
I really think that you, like most of us, at some point, we go from these perfect, whole, complete beings that come into this world hardwired for celebration and self love, confidence, and resilience.
Mm.
You never see a baby take a step back from a mirror and go, God, my thighs are fat.
I
Like you
love
just
the
like
new
it doesn't
Rebellions.
happen.
Right.
And at some point, whether it's because of abuse and trauma and criticism in your home, or what happens to absolutely everyone is when you enter school and the driving survival mechanism is to fit in somehow.
Yes.
Your brain goes from a self love machine into becoming that sorting hat from Harry Potter.
Mm.
Where if you've ever, we can all remember back to that moment in elementary school where you've got your tray in the cafeteria and you're looking around for where you want to sit and your heart is pulling you towards the group that you want to go to. But the sorting hat brain who's just trying to protect you is like, you can't go over there. Those are lacrosse kids. Oh, you can't go over there. You don't look like them. Oh, you can't go over there because you don't have the same kind of clothing or money or whatever. And your brain is just trying to keep you safe.
Right.
But you start the habit of rejection of self from a very young age. And it's just become a pattern. That's all that it is. Like, you're not broken if you criticize yourself.
Right.
You have a pattern that is broken. And
This makes
that's
me
why you need to replace it. You've been on this incredible journey of healing. What has it taught you about greatness?
You can't be great without having peace and without going on a healing journey, in my mind. You can accomplish a lot. You can achieve a lot. You can get a lot of awards and make a lot of money. But I feel like if you feel like you still aren't enough, then you're not great, I don't think.
Because
really
it's
don't
the
think so.
enough, the thing that you're chasing is outside of you.
It is outside of you. And again, I was chasing them to feel better about myself, to feel like, okay, I matter and I have value, because I didn't believe I had value. And I think once you believe you have value, then you're creating from a space of love and win-win and service, as opposed to, I need to do this for me and look good and feel something up inside of me. You're doing it from a more healing journey place, and then you're able to give more. You're able to create in a better place. So a lot of my life was doing things to prove people wrong, that I felt abused, abandoned, made fun of by. It's like, well, let me go make, create, succeed to prove people wrong. So when I would lose, I was a bad loser, because I was like, oh, I didn't prove them wrong. I lost. They were right. And so it was just a different energy of creation. It's the second most powerful fuel, is the fuel of anger and not enoughness. You
Right.
can go nonstop for years trying to prove your enoughness from that state. But it is exhausting energy. It's draining. It's like, you feel like, oh, what was the point of this? So many times I accomplished things in sports, biggest dreams, after 10 and 15 years of thinking about them, working hard and accomplishing it, and feeling like so angry after I accomplished it, because I thought I would feel something different. And I still didn't feel good enough. So I was like, I need to go create more and accomplish more. And then I would do it. And I was like, why am I still feeling alone inside? It's because I didn't have a good relationship with me internally. And once I started to shift that, I just feel such a good sense of peace. And because I have a meaningful mission that is not about me, it's about others as well. And
You
so
talk about mission in this book.
and I
a
think
lot.
that's the foundation, is like getting clear on a meaningful mission that
How
is
do you
not
do
about.
that?
I mean,
You've got the framework in here,
Yeah,
but
it's a
I'm
process.
thinking, Lewis, about the person.
it depends on the season of your life. And again, if you are trying to pay your bills, you can't think about a meaningful mission. You got to think about protecting yourself, safety, and getting to a place of
Well, that's a
financial
meaningful
stability.
mission, right?
And that is a meaningful mission for this season, right?
Okay.
So when I was on my sister's couch, that's all I could think about, was like, how can I make enough money to get off the couch?
Great.
And so that was the mission for that season. But once you complete that, you got to think about something bigger that includes others, right? And so I was still including others in that by adding value to people in order to get money from them, right? Essentially, I'm going to give you a service, I'm going to help you, and you're going to pay me.
Right.
So I'm helping them overcome a problem. And I was using my passion and my power to solve a problem. And that's what I started to do. And then I started to, once I overcame that mission or accomplished it, I was like, okay, now I can see a little bit further. Now what do I want to create? And the same thing happened with the School of Greatness.
Now, so hold on. I just
Yeah.
want to tell everybody. So Lewis basically, in looking for a job, figured out how LinkedIn worked.
Exactly.
And then realized, oh, whoa, I can teach other people how to use LinkedIn like a pro. And so he literally became wildly successful being an expert on monetizing
platform.
and utilizing LinkedIn and one platform. And tell everybody how you came up with the School for Greatness idea.
So after, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of kind of teaching LinkedIn and then expanding it into just social media and marketing in general and courses and stuff like that, I realized, okay, I had enough money for maybe 2 years to live.
Oh, That's
And-
pretty damn good, Lewis.
But when you're broke and poor, at
that
least from
sounds
my
like
point of view,
the holy grail.
when you're broke and poor, from my point of view, I didn't spend anything. I was like, I just need to stack everything because I was
Yep.
in scarcity mode.
Yep.
So I wasn't like spending anything. So I had enough, and I also didn't have a car. You know, I was living in like an apartment that was only $495 a month. I was like living in the lowest amount I could. I was like taking trains places, not like flying anywhere. I was like, how can I
This
save?
is Lewis the squirrel.
Yes, I
hoarding
was a
his
squirrel,
nuts,
trying
man.
to get
Here
nuts
we go.
everywhere.
That's
put 'em
right.
put them in my back pocket. And once I realized, oh, I can actually like, I'm surviving now, right? I'm thriving, I'm surviving. I got out of this kind of like scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
I was able to think beyond that. I was able to think beyond this like need to like just make money really quickly. And I realized I didn't want this anymore. This season of life, I was like, I don't want to do what I was doing in this business anymore. So I sold it to a business partner that I had. And I was like, okay, I've got about 2 years of cash if I don't make any money to survive.
Yep.
This is the exact moment when I got into the fight on the basketball court. I was going through a breakup in a relationship that I moved to LA for. And I was just having breakdowns in life. And so I was literally stuck in traffic in LA a little over 10 years ago. Tuesday next week is my 10-year anniversary for my podcast.
No way.
Tuesday next week. So a little over 10 years ago, maybe 10 years and 3 months ago, I'm stuck in LA traffic. All this stuff had just happened. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I don't have it all figured out. I thought I did. I thought my ego knew it was right.
Yeah.
I thought I, accomplished stuff and this and that, and was featured in the White House and all these other things. I was like, man, I should be the man, but I feel like a loser. And I was stuck in LA traffic. We were literally on the 405, and we were not moving. And all these people around me in cars stopped, were screaming and honking and flipping each other off. And I'm honking, and I'm like, man, I'm stuck. We're stuck. Everyone's stuck. And I was just like, okay, if people are stuck in traffic and they're taking them so long to get places, what if I could offer value and solve a problem for them to get unstuck? This was literally what I was going through. And I was like, I need the solution myself. And I just started hearing about podcasting. This was 2012. I just started to hear like just whispers, podcasting. What is this thing, right? And I was like, I literally called two friends in the car. It was a long drive. Being stuck, I called two friends. I go, I know you have a podcast. I just saw you launch this thing.
Who were they?
Pat Flynn and my friend Derek Halpern.
Okay.
Called them both. And I go, tell me about the podcasting thing. And they were like, I love it. It's the coolest thing ever. The audience I'm connecting, the building, the relationship. It's the best thing ever. I don't make any money, but it's the best thing ever. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, man, I think I could do this, because I had started to just interview people for myself, recording it for me, like business leaders and sports athletes and all these people for years leading up to that. That's how I got in kind of the LinkedIn space. I would network with people, I'd interview them. And I just was like, man, I've learned so much from these people, which got me here in my business results. So let me take it a step farther. And they were both telling me like, well, you should just make it about like marketing and entrepreneurship, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
I was like, it just doesn't resonate with me. I feel like I'm supposed to do something more. They're like, well, don't go too broad because it probably won't work.
Oh, you mean like greatness?
Yeah. And I was like, and who are you? You're still just like getting started. You're like an internet marketer. You don't have a big audience. Like, you can't go too broad.
You just beat somebody up on a basketball court.
I know, right?
mean,
Like you're breaking down everywhere in your life. And I was just like, again, that voice kept saying like, I just feel like this is what I want to step into though. And even if it fails, I'm going to make it an experiment. I'm going to do it for 1 year, 1 episode a week for a year, and just see if I like it. So I discovered the mission by exploring something, by being curious and trying it. And I gave myself some parameters. I'm not going to try to make money. Again, at that time, I had money for 2 years.
Got it.
Some people may not have that luxury
Right.
when they're figuring this out in terms of making money. You might have to make money really quickly. If I needed to make money, I could have.
Well, you also don't have to go all in.
Exactly.
What I loved about what you said, did you hear what Lewis said? Experiment. He gave himself permission to experiment with something for a year. Number 2, he took the pressure off and said, I'm not going to make this experiment generate money. And so if you can, whether you're on the couch or you're working a job, if you can give yourself the grace of an experiment and take the pressure off of money, you now are walking in the footsteps of greatness here. And so you set out on this experiment and you didn't
Yeah.
know shit about how to do it.
I
You
had
have
no
two
clue.
friends that,
I had an iPhone that I used to record in the beginning. I had no clue what I was doing. I was, I was trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do. I was just like trying stuff. And it's funny because my assistant listened to the first episode like last week. She goes, I went back and listened to the first episode. She goes, you're a completely different person. And I'm like, because it was more about success, right? It was more about like achievement and winning and like results.
oh, I have to go back and listen now. It's like, you, Lewis. We
Right.
might have to pop in a little
Right.
audio of Lewis introducing himself.
Exactly. Then I went to this workshop a few months later.
Oh,
And
the
I
one where you
Open
spoke
up
for
about,
the first
yeah,
time?
about sexual abuse and all these things. And I actually, this is so funny. I actually learned the concept about no one wins. Or you don't win unless everyone wins around you. That was like, what? That concept didn't make sense to me as an athlete. I was like, no, there is one winner. Everyone else must lose. Otherwise, you're the loser, right? That was kind of like the mentality that I was trained with.
Right.
It was the programming that I was conditioned to have. And this workshop taught me that you don't win unless everyone wins.
You embody that, dude.
And it's about, thank you. And it's about, it doesn't mean, winning could look differently for everyone around you, but there must be like a win-win experience. Otherwise, your win doesn't mean as much if others aren't improving and growing and succeeding in whatever it is they're doing as well, right? It doesn't mean it has to be equal winning or something like that. And that's why I was like, yeah, that's right. This podcast can't be about like results. It should be about elevating others and about improvement and how we can all win together. And that's when it started to shift. And I started to like be a little softer and be less like, let's just get results, and it was beautiful. So there's so much that happened in that first year of the experiment where I started to like try something and it wasn't perfect the first 100 times. I just said, how can I make it better every time? How can I listen to the feedback and make it better every time? And how can I find my voice in this process? Even if I'm not comfortable sharing my voice, how do I find it by practicing it? And after the first year, I remember being like, man, I just really loved this and enjoyed it. And so 10 years later, here we are. I still love it, still enjoy it.
Wow. When you think back on literally probably thousands of people that you've interviewed, what's one interview that you reflect on the most?
I was going to say Kobe because he was my favorite interview. But when you said this, there was an interview the first year that I had with a guy named Chris Lee, who is the actual coach and trainer of the workshop I went to when I opened up for the first time.
Really?
He had such a massive impact on me from that experience that I ended up hiring him as a coach for a couple of years just to like coach me personally. And I had him come on the show and I had him put me through, well, I guess he put me through it, but I asked him about like, I was single at the time. I go, how do you find the dream like partner? And he put me through a guided meditation where he had me close my eyes and he like walked me through a scenario and a scene of my future self. He said, I want you to imagine waking up next to this person. I want you to imagine what they look like, what they sound like. I want you to imagine when you open the windows, where you are in the world, what your view is. I want you to imagine the feeling, the experience you're having with this person. And the reason I'm talking about that is because I said to myself during that, my eyes were closed. I was like, I don't know if this was weird or not, but I was like, I wake up next to the woman of my dreams. And when I open my eyes, she looks at me and she's smiling at me every morning. And I remember just saying that. I don't know why that came to me, but I was like, she looks at me, she's smiling at me because she's so grateful and happy that we're in this relationship together. And essentially 8 years later, I'm in a relationship with a person that wakes up, that literally opens her eyes and looks at me and smiles. And this is no joke. It happens every day. She looks at me, she hugs me. Some days she wakes up crying. I'm not kidding, because she's just a grateful human being. Not just because of like I'm in her life, but she's just a happy person. And I dreamt of this. And so for me, that was a powerful episode because I had 2 other relationships before her and after this conversation. Those things didn't happen. And I realized that it only happened the moment I started to fully heal a lot of the emotional things that I still wasn't ready to face in intimacy. So I healed one element, but not all the other elements. And it wasn't until I literally, there was a pain in my chest for years from other things, not the sexual abuse pain, because I could talk about that freely and be at
Right.
peace. But in other things that I still wasn't willing to face. And it wasn't until I faced those things 2 years ago, there was a pain in my chest for many years that would come and go. It disintegrated after about 5 months of intensive therapy, integration, healing. It finally disintegrated in my chest, and I felt this ball of pain go throughout my body into like complete freedom. And it hasn't come back since.
Wow.
It took 5 months of intense reflection, exercises, practicing of healing the nervous system to where that went away. That is literally a month or two later, I met her.
Wow.
And it's been a game changer ever since.
Have you talked publicly about what that thing was that you faced?
I haven't really talked about it publicly. I just started kind of telling people that, because I don't know if other people feel a pain in their chest. I don't know if you've ever felt like a ball that's kind of like this, not palpitations, but just kind of a nagging pain.
I think people I feel it more kind of like right above the stomach.
Yeah.
That's sort of where and I know when it's coming because it hits the ankles first and then this
Interesting.
clenches. Yep.
Like wobbly legs or something?
No, like I feel literally when I get triggered, I literally feel it
Interesting.
start.
And it comes to your stomach.
Yeah, but I think you want to know why. It's because that's how the person approached me.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, because it used to be the throat and the chest for me. You just feel like I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And there was like a pain here. And I was just like, it wasn't like I felt like I was going to have a heart attack or anything like that, but it's just like a nagging pain.
Yeah.
It would come and go, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it or how to like eliminate it. And I went to 5 months of intensive every week therapy, sometimes 5-6 hours on Saturdays, where I was just like, I'm a maniac on a mission to create peace, clarity, and freedom. The first day I stepped into therapy with my coach, I call her an emotional coach because I think we should all have one. She said, "What's your intention for starting this process?" I said, "I want peace, clarity, and freedom." Because I didn't feel like I had any of those.
Can I take a guess at what your biggest block was?
Sure.
It was an inability to even allow love in. Is that what it was?
I don't know if that's what it was. Maybe, but it was my inability to not abandon myself.
What does that mean for somebody who's never heard that term?
So it was my inability to not abandon myself in intimacy with one person, the person that I was choosing to be in a committed relationship with. Because I wouldn't abandon myself in other areas. I would stand up for those like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, were you like a nice guy doormat type in relationships?
I was more trying to buy peace. So whenever my relationships in the past would be upset at me.
Yeah.
You didn't do this. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go do it now.
Yeah.
Whenever there was disturbance emotionally,
Yes. You
or the
withdrew?
environment, or they were screaming at me, or they were cold shoulder, or they wouldn't speak to me, I was like, I don't like this feeling. And so I didn't know how to navigate my inner world when that would happen. I didn't know how to be peaceful under chaos emotionally. So I would do things to buy peace. I would say, okay, I'll stop doing this. Even though I don't want to stop doing something, I'll
Yeah.
stop doing it to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give in here. Okay, I'll come home 5 hours early. Okay, I won't go on that trip because you don't feel comfortable with me going alone.
See, I don't think people understand how much men struggle with this. No, I mean it. Like this is why I said you remind me a tremendous amount in ways of Chris. Same thing. Like just would shut down
Yeah.
and
Or give in.
or
whatever,
give
yeah.
in and not capable of expressing what he needed because his experience as a kid was it didn't matter anyway.
Exactly. And a lot of times, in general, a lot of men were never trained on how to navigate uncomfortable emotions through their highest selves. They would navigate it through their ego self, which is to defend, protect, and show that everything's okay. And that works in some cases, but not in every case. And I think I didn't have the tools, the training, the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom on how to navigate stressful emotions in love, in an intimate, loving relationship. I could do it in business and sports and
What
other
was it
things.
modeled for you?
It wasn't
when
modeled
you were
for me.
little?
Yeah, it was constant. It was a constant low-level stress and like resentment from my parents of each other, which
Yeah.
made me always like, what's going to happen, right? And they loved me, and I knew they loved me, but I knew they also didn't love each other.
Yeah.
And so that was stressful. And so I didn't know how to be with a woman who was like, you can't do this, screaming at me, don't do this. I don't like when you do this. This is not okay. Blah, 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 blah. Because what they are saying is you're not enough. And I don't accept you for who you are, Lewis. So I didn't accept myself for who I was. I knew I wasn't enough. That's how I thought. So I said, I'm going to do what's going to make her feel like I'm enough for her.
Right.
And after a year, 2 years, 3 years of doing that and just giving in and giving in and giving in, you fully lose yourself.
Yes.
You lose you lose who you are. And then you get resentful, you get frustrated, you get angry. So I lacked the emotional ability to say no. And if you don't love me and accept me and you want to walk away, that's okay. And I lacked the emotional ability to just be okay with me walking away from something as well. And that's why when I met Martha, which you've met her a couple times now,
She smiles at you all the time
I had a fully different experience
because you were different.
because I was completely different. And I just told her, like, straight up, I was like, this is my values, this is who I am, and I'm never going to abandon myself for anyone. You, this, that, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just never going to abandon myself. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be a flexible human being and supportive in all these other ways, but I'm not going to give up who I am to please one human being because they're not happy with me.
Dude, if you could sum up the greatness mindset, I think you just did. There is this quote that goes viral all the time. I have no idea who said it first, but it's that thing that when you put all your energy into trying to keep the peace with others, you create a war inside yourself.
that's
and
good.
that is just what you described.
Yeah.
That tension in your chest, and so many of you listening, listen with it, or that pit in your stomach is the war that Lewis just described with yourself, because you're so much more focused and concerned with keeping the peace, making sure everybody else is okay. And until you invert that and you focus on creating peace within yourself, that's it right there.
And this is the moment when it unlocked. I remember now exactly what happened when the pain went away, because I was working on, because I didn't feel free, right? And so for 5 months of therapy, going in every week, I was committed. I was like, I'm going to figure this out, and I'll go as long as it takes.
You're like a truffle pig for healing.
was
man.
like,
He's going to
yeah,
root
yeah,
that thing out right there.
exactly.
I'm doing it, man. I'm not going to stop until I'm healed. I love that.
And I
I'm proud of you.
And healing's a journey. It's not an event that happens overnight.
Right.
There's an unlocking, there's an awareness moments, but then then PTSD occurs if you don't keep integrating it.
Yeah.
So it's a constant
So
journey.
what was that moment?
So the moment was because every time I would meet my coach, she'd say, what's your intention? Peace, clarity, freedom.
Okay.
I didn't feel them. And so we were talking about what each one is. When do you not feel peace? When do you not feel clear? Freedom. And I was like, I've never felt free in my life. And a lot of it came down to modeling parents. They weren't free in their relationship. They both were resentful of being in the relationship. They both got married when they're 19. They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
They had 4 kids. They were working their butts off, just staying together. So I don't blame them, but they stayed together, not because they wanted to, because they didn't know how to navigate it as well. And so I saw them trapped. That was what it was for me. I saw them trapped, and I was afraid to be trapped because I didn't want to repeat the feeling of them being trapped and feeling miserable a lot of the time. And I was like, I don't want to create that in my life, but I didn't know how to stand up for myself. So that was the thing. And she just kept looking at me. It was kind of like a Goodwill Hunting moment. She was like, you're not trapped. You're not trapped. You're not trapped. You're a free man. You're a free man. You're a free man. And I don't know what it was, just like all the months of like the practicing, the integrating, the opening it back up, where it's just kind of like this like rush. It like finally connected to me that I am a free man, that I am not trapped. She was like, you can walk away at any moment. You can walk away at any moment. You don't have to keep working in this relationship. Like, especially since you're not married, you don't have to walk. You can walk away at any moment.
But even if you are married, you're free.
You can walk away. And that was the thing. I was like, I'm so afraid to get married because I don't want to have the shame of getting divorced or the pain that that happens after divorce that so many people go through.
Well, it's so interesting. You were so focused on not feeling trapped that you actually trapped yourself.
100%. And it's so funny because I went to a prison almost every week for 4.5 years, and I watched men who were trapped behind bars. But some of them were emotionally free. Some of them were there, but I saw them free men. Like they were in a state of complete peace. Not all of them, but some of them had so much love in their hearts, were very kind and generous. They had their families around, and they were free emotionally. But they just did something that put them in there physically. And I realized for so long that I was trapped emotionally, but free physically, and I didn't know how to break free. And that was the thing where I was like, I'm just sick and tired of feeling this pain. I'm sick and tired of repeating the pattern where I'm the common denominator in all these relationships, choosing them, staying in them, and not standing up for myself. So that was a massive game changer for me, was investing in emotional coaching, showing up consistently when I didn't want to, and doing the work. And I think a lot of us will get business coaches, career coaches, health coaches, but the emotional game is the game that most of us don't know how to master. And yet we won't invest in coaching or find support. And I just think it's so crucial.
It's a moment that I think everybody can relate to. I mean, what was going on in my life is my dream job, which was to be a daytime talk show host, ended.
Which you were great at.
Thank you. The show failed. I mean, let's be honest. It got canceled. I got fired from my dream job. That's what happened. I could make some lovely story up, but that's If I'd been amazing, we'd be in season 2. And so I find myself fired from my dream job. I then abruptly get a book contract canceled, not because the publisher is a jerk, but because I have crazy dyslexia and ADHD. It is next to impossible for me to take what's in my noggin and get it on a piece of paper. And I was a year late in delivering a manuscript.
You really?
So I then get a contract canceled and I have to return money I've already spent. And then the pandemic is just in full swing, and speech after speech after speech after speech starts canceling.
Right.
We get 3 kids coming home, 2 from college, 1 from middle school. We all know what it was like to be with our kids in the early days. They were like caged animals going through grief and fear and anger and aiming it right at us, the parents.
Yep.
And I found myself one morning standing in my bathroom in my underwear.
Okay.
I was brushing my teeth. I hadn't even had a cup of coffee yet. I hadn't put on a bra. I mean, I'm just standing there.
Giving me the visual. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please like brush it up somehow, okay? Because you trust me, you know, if you want to look at this, there's something wrong with you. So I am standing there, and of course, I look at the mirror, and I immediately think, ugh, I have jowls that look like saddlebags on a pack mule going into the Grand Canyon. I've got stripes on my neck. One tit is hanging lower than the other. I got gray hair coming in. I look down, the dog still has to be walked. I haven't responded to Ed's text. I've got a Zoom meeting in 9 minutes. I literally, my mind is taking me down the drain. I feel the mood drop. Look, like you, I am one of the most successful motivational speakers in the world.
It's so awesome.
I didn't have a fucking thing to say to myself.
Right. I've been there. Yep.
Like, all I wanted to do is crawl on the couch with the dog and have a cup of coffee. I wanted to not have to deal with anything or deal with anybody or face the problems that I felt. I wanted the stress to disappear. And I didn't know what to say. Here's the pathetic part.
Okay.
As if this isn't lame enough.
Right.
I literally, without thinking, raised my hand.
I love this.
And gave myself a high five in the mirror.
I love this.
And I could cry. Like, I just, my shoulders dropped. I kind of felt this like, okay,
Yeah.
pick your head up.
Yeah.
It's okay, you got this. And I went on with my day.
Wow.
That was it.
In that moment, do you go, this is something?
No. God, no.
Not at
I'm
all.
like, don't tell anybody what just happened. Like, that is lame.
Lame.
Oh my God. Yeah, like normally what I would do is on a stressful day, it's like, fuck it, cancel the Zoom call and make a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know. So
25 billion people are agreeing and connecting with you right now, obviously.
but this is the truth.
Yeah.
Right? This is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the next morning, this is the weird part. This is when things got weird. I woke up, I always wake up when the alarm rings, and then I make my bed. Largely so I don't crawl back into it, but also so that I have a beautiful place to come back to sleep, so that I practice simple discipline.
Yep.
And as I walked toward the bathroom, something weird happened.
Okay.
I started to anticipate seeing myself. Sort of like, you know, when you pull out of your driveway and you got a neighbor that waves to you?
Yeah.
I felt like I was about to see a friend.
Interesting.
Now, here's the crazy part. I have probably spent the last 40 years either criticizing the person I see in the mirror.
You really?
Or ignoring her.
I
And so I step into the bathroom, right? So I step in and there's your reflection. And I stood there for a minute, and like you, I'm really busy. And my mind is also like wildly active, constantly going. And when I stood there and stared at my reflection, knowing that I was about to high five myself, it was this moment of like intentional, just purposeful presence with myself.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And as I raised my hand and high fived myself again, something else weird happened.
Okay.
It's impossible to have a negative thought when you're high fiving yourself.
I love this.
Impossible.
I love this.
You cannot go, you suck.
Yeah.
You're a failure. You've like blown it. You're not going to do well in this meeting. Today's going to be, you can't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. The science on
This is what I love.
crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay.
So here's what happens. You have a lifetime of giving other people high
Yeah,
fives.
you got a trigger now or something, don't you?
So what does a high five mean to you?
Good job. Awesome. Let's go. Right?
Yes.
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 Yep.
You got a teammate that's going down, you
Yep.
give them a high five to pick them up. You
Yep.
got the biggest player of your life, you give them a high five to
Yep.
send them into the game.
Yep.
You've got a really awesome thing you're celebrating, a high five is
Yes.
what seals it.
Yes.
So you have a lifetime of positive programming.
Very good.
High-fiving other people.
This is awesome.
It is
Yep.
already stored right here in your basal ganglia.
Yeah.
And so when you do the physical motion that is tied to all the positive programming, Ed,
Yep.
you start to fuse it with your own reflection.
Oh my gosh.
You silence the inner critic, you silence decades of criticism, you shut the shame up, you literally reset the regret that you may feel. Any stress or anxiety that you feel about what's about to happen shuts up. And you cannot have negative thoughts
This is really good.
as your arm moves. Now, there's this whole field of psychology and neuroscience called neurobics. I didn't make the word up, but it's like neuroscience and aerobics.
Okay.
And the research shows that when you take an unexpected physical action, so, you know, we're used to high-fiving everybody else, but we're not used to high-fiving ourselves. So it's unexpected for your brain, so your prefrontal cortex engages. And you have a positive thought with it. You accelerate new neural pathway development. And so you're using the physical action that's unexpected, along with a lifetime of positive programming, to fundamentally rewire how you think about yourself.
This is good.
It's unbelievable.
This is good.
And so that's just the beginning.
Can I say something
Yeah.
about that? I want to just validate a few things. One, I want to tell you that I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that you spent those 4 years either criticizing or being
40.
invisible. 40. Okay, excuse me, 40. That's what I meant to say. 40 years. And I can tell you, because we get this both a lot, we're, you know, obviously people that pour energy in other people. I just want to tell you that that's true for me too, and I want my audience to know that. I do a lot of criticism of myself. I've done it all my life, but I've really moved that more into invisibility. I don't look at myself. I don't think about myself. I do that as well. So just from a male perspective, I don't have the right boob lower than the left and all that other stuff you were going through.
If you lift on one side, you might.
I probably actually, at this point the way I've been eating, I definitely do. But typically I would like to think I don't. But I want to say that, I want to second that. And then the other thing is the massive power of what you're describing, because you're engaging both parts of the brain here. You're engaging the frontal cortex of the brain because it's a new move, so your brain can't conserve energy. It's got to actually engage. But you're also engaging all the hardwiring you've had for years and years and years of having this trigger of this high five. This is brilliant at both times. So I don't want to interrupt you
I'm
on
not
it.
even done, dude. Like
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
only just like scratched the surface on the science.
okay, so let's
you're gonna freak the out.
Okay.
Talk about max out.
Yeah.
You're going to max
the
out
freak
on this.
F out. Okay. So keep rolling on it because you know me, I'm super
Yes.
fascinated by this. So simple move, out of nothing, high five. All of a sudden, you've stumbled into some of the best neuroscience in the world that proves that this is a game changer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now there's even more. So think about a moment when you go to high five somebody and you guys kind of like, you know, like you have a shitty high five,
you
right?
miss it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
miss it. It's like
Yeah.
limp.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Me
limp.
too.
Okay.
Do it again. Right.
Yeah. Do it again. Why? Because a high five requires both presence and intention.
Shit. Yes, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so standing there with yourself, there's new research right out of Harvard that proves that if you take just 1 minute of an intentional reflection about who you're going to be today, it changes your level of productivity. It changes how you show up as a leader. It changes your ability to impact people, and it changes your effectiveness. Simply a single minute of setting an intention about who you're going to be today. And so when you stand in front of that mirror and you don't ignore yourself like Ed and my husband do, or criticize yourself like 91% of women do on default, and you take a moment to intentionally be with yourself, and you think about the day ahead, even if you've got a lot of stressful stuff going on, especially actually if you have a lot of stressful stuff going on, and you then raise your hand and you begin your day with this high five to yourself, you are sealing that intention that you believe in yourself and that you got it.
Very good.
It's incredible. There's also, I was just with Dr. Daniel Amen, who I know you know
Right.
too, who's one
Love
of the
him.
world's leading experts on the brain.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the high five habit. And he was saying that the other thing that's happening, and this is why when you first start doing it, it's going to take 2 to 3 days to get through, and we're going to talk about the resistance, and we're going to talk about the fact that it feels weird and why.
Yeah.
Because there's a very deep and very sad reason why it feels weird and why you're going to have resistance to doing this. But by about day 3, what's going to happen is pretty crazy. You're either going to feel a major surge and boost in your mood, or you are going to have a very just kind of unnerving sense of calm. And the reason why is you have a lifetime of your nervous system experiencing joy when you celebrate people. I mean, think about going to, for me, you know, well, you're a Boston guy, the Red Sox. You go
Yes.
to the Fenway Park and they score, you're like, yes!
Naturally.
High-fiving
First
each
move you
other,
make.
like, yes.
First move.
And so literally, when you raise your hand like that, and it has been infused with so much celebration, your nervous system and your brain recognizes it, and you get what he calls a positive drip of dopamine, which either calms your brain and the stress, or it amplifies your mood to make you feel excited about what you're about to do.
My gosh.
Isn't this incredible?
It is incredible. Yeah, it is incredible. So are you suggesting, and we're going to go to the resistance in a minute, I'm just thinking through all the applications. The other thing is almost anything good happens in my life, especially anyone that ever played a sport, bam, I am high-fiving anywhere I can get it and spread it. And it is a way of acknowledging yourself, but also acknowledging the other person. It's a massive state change. It's so, I love the fact that I introed you this way, not knowing we were going to talk about this, that you can take incredibly complicated things and distill them down to the most simple action you could take. This is the best example ever of that, because there's all this neuroscience behind all of it. You're like, look in the mirror and high five, right? So
yeah, which sounds like, oh, please.
it actually doesn't now, though. Like, we're 10 minutes in here and it's brilliant, right? So it doesn't sound that way to me now. So I want to go back. Physically, you're saying that what you're suggesting we all do, recommending, which I will begin to do immediately, is that upon waking, is there a time that you believe that this is applicable?
It's a good question. I personally think how you set your day up is how it ends up. And all the research also shows that that your mood in your morning impacts productivity all day.
For sure.
So when you do small things to boost your mood, it has a documented impact on your ability to focus, to be productive, to believe in yourself. And so I personally would recommend that you habit stack it, that you pair it with something that you always do in the morning in the bathroom. So whether that's brushing your teeth, or whether it's flossing or shaving or whatever you might do, before or after, just before you leave that bathroom, you have to high five yourself in the mirror.
Okay.
And so the simple rule is don't ever leave a bathroom without high fiving yourself in the mirror.
Ever
Send
again?
yourself back into the game of life.
Okay.
Having your own back.
Okay. Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
No one else is going to ask you this. I'm just thinking through because
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Okay. I'm in 1,000%. Do you think that if you do it too repetitiously that it loses its charge? Or do you believe that if you do it more repetitiously that it actually gains, a pattern with you that as a deeper trigger?
Excellent question. I'm realizing that I do the high five right before I leave the bathroom. So it's the last thing I do.
Okay.
It's always after I brush my teeth.
Okay.
But it's the last thing I do before I leave the bathroom. Now, I might come back in
Yep.
and put makeup on or do
Yep.
something else, but that first high five in the morning is important.
Okay.
And here to answer your question, in the beginning, it becomes something you do. It becomes a practice that you're adding to your morning routine.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, it becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
Because here's the killer thing. Oh my God, I'm not even done explaining all the research.
Okay.
Because we've got to get into motivation.
Yep.
We've got to get into what research says about celebration, empowerment, support. We got to get into what the studies about the NBA teams say about high fives and
Okay.
championship teams. Like,
Okay.
I got so much to unpack
I
here.
love
It's
this.
incredible. So, oh God, what was I going to say? I was high-fiving in the...
Well, I want you to stay on one thought you have because I don't want to move off of it because we're
Yeah.
going to get into the research. I actually want to ask you about the resistance piece of it because you said that it's powerful and a little bit sad, and that just stuck
Extremely
with me when
sad.
you said it. Because we can move into the NBA stuff, but beforehand, because one, my question is don't outthink the room, right? Just take this principle and apply it.
Right.
That's the first thing. Don't overthink it. How do I do it? Where do I put my hand? Just give yourself a high five. You're not thinking about when you're giving another person a high five.
Right.
Open hand, closed hand, just give them a damn high five,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So let's don't overthink the room. I know that 30% of everyone's like, exactly which hand, how quickly, how long do I hold it up for? Let's not do that, everybody, right? Let's apply the principle. And the second thing is, though, what is the resistance? Why is there
This
resistance?
is so sad.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two kind of buckets that it falls into.
Okay.
And the one bucket is that you believe you only deserve it if you've achieved something.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything worthy of a high five. I don't get a high five unless I hit the number on the scale, or I have that number in the bank account, or I land the job, or I find the person, or I do the thing. And by withholding celebration, support, empowerment, and encouragement from yourself, you're making it not only harder, I would say next to impossible to make those things that you want a reality.
Very good.
The other reason why people feel a resistance, and this is also incredibly sad, is that your default in your mind is that you are not worthy of it.
Yes. Yeah.
That you have failed, or you're damaged, or you've been abused, or you have so much evidence stacked up about why you do not deserve to be celebrated,
Yeah.
that you actively withhold it from yourself.
Yep. Which is a metaphor for other parts of your life. You actually don't think you're worthy of this joy. I have to say to you, if you're hearing me under my breath during the interview, I'm going, this is very good, this is very good. You guys, they don't normally hear me talk like this, because I'm going to be honest with everybody. When I have someone on the show that's in our space or our world, there's usually, this is very good, or this is great. But when I'm listening to you right now, there's a part of me that envies you a little bit, because I think this is one of the most brilliant things I've heard since I've ever been involved in personal development or peak performance or life change. And so I'm just going, why didn't I think of this? This is so good, right? I also am like a high five person. I've done it with people think I'm going to do it with my kids all the time. I'm sort of
Oh, I
spreading
love that you
all the-
said this, dude.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because we're all good at giving everybody else a high five.
So everybody thinks they're extra good at it, but everybody's actually good at doing it. They won't give themselves one because they're not worthy.
Or nobody's ever taught you how.
Yeah.
Like, we all know we're supposed to validate ourselves and love ourselves and accept ourselves. How the f do you do it?
Yeah. What are you doing actually to physically do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the thing is that we're amazing at cheering for our favorite sports teams and downloading albums and planning birthday parties and doing extra work for colleagues who are stressed out and visiting people that are sick. We not only fall short, what I have found now researching this for a year is that most of us do the opposite. We withhold it from ourselves.
Yep. I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I do the two things you said. If I'm in a space by myself, I am typically being somewhat critical of myself, evaluating what I could have done. There's one thing we all do too. I could have done this better. That's actually self-criticism. I used to think, no, I'm growing. I'm evaluating myself. I'm self-aware. Nah, it's usually criticism.
Yeah.
It's usually criticism. And then because I avoid that guy, I do the invisible thing. I've literally gotten ready in front of hundreds of mirrors in my life and really never looked at myself. Really never looked at the man looking back at me. Like, I wonder sometimes, I've looked at myself so little, I don't know if everybody can relate to this. I don't know if I would recognize me in a crowd if I were there. And that's a pretty sad thing to admit as somebody who's, probably impacted a few people in their life positively, right? Like, I pay so little attention to me and give myself so little of just this gift. For me, I'm thinking about this in the morning. For sure, I'm going to do it. I'm also thinking about before I go out and give a talk somewhere, just be able to find myself in a bathroom, just give myself the gift of it.
Yeah.
This is a gift you can give yourself.
Exactly.
That is so simple. That
Do you know why
deserve
your
it.
mind is popping off?
Yeah.
Because you actually understand so much about the brain.
Yeah.
Like I can see like your
I am.
neurons firing as you're connecting the dots and being like, this actually reshapes your RAS.
Correct.
Like this is like something that is a tool.
Yeah.
Like one of the other things that I think that you're gonna really, really love about this is that I wanna tell you about two other studies. Okay, because your audience, my audience, really into peak performance, into achieving goals, into, and I think when you're somebody that's driven like you and I are, you already said it. We have a negativity bias because we're so driven that we've developed a voice that's really hard on us. We don't see the 100 things that went right today. We see the one frickin' thing that didn't work.
Absolutely.
And then we look at that and we call that, of course, it's one of the reasons why we're successful. But I'm here to tell you, it's also why you're not as joyous as you could be as you're having this success.
Yes.
Because you are focused on the shit that's wrong instead of having micro celebrations and moments of joy and drip dopamine, as Dr. Amen says, throughout the day as you're seeing the things that are going right.
Yep. I think the robbing of that of yourself will eventually cause a frying and burnout. If you continue to take actions and get no dopamine hits for doing any of them, at one point you just reach the conclusion that it's not as worth doing as it used to be.
Yeah,
and this is one way to give yourself that hit. My brain is firing thinking about all the applications of this.
Yeah.
So give me another study. You're going to say another study.
So there's two really cool studies that I know you're going to love.
Okay.
So, and this goes into the power, the motivational power of encouragement, support, and celebration. Because I think the myth of like tough love and being hard on yourself is a motivational force.
I know it is.
Based on the research, it doesn't work. Even if you look at Goggins, what does he do when he is really up against the wall, right? He's got that cookie jar thing.
That's right.
That's a positive memory.
It's a positive memory. That's right. Yep.
So even that is in the form of encouragement.
Yep.
And so here's the study with the NBA teams. They took a look at NBA teams in a couple across various seasons. You can predict who is going to be in the championships based on the teams that have the most number of high fives, fist bumps, and back pats in the preseason.
In the preseason?
Because they build trust and partnership. And you can also predict who's going to rank the worst.
Based on the fewest?
Yes, because those players are selfish and in for themselves. And so there is a partnership and a trust that this builds. And what I'm here to tell you is you do this every morning, you will build partnership and trust with yourself.
I love it.
You are the most important person in your life. Your relationship with yourself is the foundation of every single relationship that you have. You better start fucking paying attention to it and looking yourself in the eyes. And if you continue to do this, you are a man with an enormous heart and soul.
Thank you.
You will, I don't even see myself physically. I'm in touch with the being that's in this like skin sack. Seriously.
Were you prior to this?
I don't think so. I think I was so busy and sort of dysregulated in my nervous system. And, you know, my success was born out of, at least in this chapter of my life, another rock bottom moment where we were on the verge of losing absolutely everything. And I know that you've been there too, facing bankruptcy. I was drinking myself into the ground. Chris and I were fighting like crazy. While I have fixed things on the outside, I never actually knew how to connect with myself on the inside. I absolutely was chasing all those things outside, the likes, the validation, the external achievement stuff, in order to prove that I was worthy of love. The high five habit, and that's just the beginning. I mean, this high five in the mirror is just a Trojan horse. I mean, the whole book is about small habits based in science that teach you how to fulfill your own needs emotionally and how to support, encourage, and empower yourself through the ups and downs in life. How to flip jealousy, for example, into inspiration. How to go from a really low mindset into what I call a high five attitude when you feel insecure or people pleasing. And so the high five in the mirror is the beginning. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.